Good evening, hello and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with another round of fast, furious and frantic racing, and it can only be in one series, and that's the official iRacing GTE Sprint Series as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. We are here once again for a top split broadcast. Friday comes around as quick as that, and it is week 6 of the 2025 Season 2 campaign, and we are here in Portugal today for the Autódromo Internacional do Algarve, one of the youngest circuits on the European continent, but arguably one of the most old school young circuits at that. With its wide variety of elevation changes, sweeping corners, hairpins and extended straights, it is a circuit where it will feel like a roller coaster ride on the European continent, much like our previous circuit in week number 5, where we're in the United States of America course for Road Atlanta, the ultimate roller coaster ride of road racing. Well, we carry on that theme today, and the adrenaline levels are going to be absolutely high as we welcome you all to this live broadcast in what is the Friday 1900 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC top split spot. But as welcome to this broadcast, available on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for TX141 at TX or 30 Paul Walsh, depending on your search terms. Well, hello to you guys and girls all tuning in, and don't be shy, feel free to say hi, because in the quarantine booth you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britney Bit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now I bring you all your racing action with this week, and indeed over the entirety of the Season 2 campaign. But as we roll our way there into week number 6, well, let's give you a recap of what rounds we've had so far, and what we still got lying in wait as we see the qualifying session going on in the background, and we're only 4 minutes away from heading to the grid. Well, of course, we are coming towards the end of the first half of the season, with the fact that after today, we'll make our way immediately into the second half. But along the way, in week number 1, it was the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. In week 2, Daytona International Speedway. Then in round number 3, or week number 3, it was the Suzuka International Racing Course. In week 4, we made our way to Italy for the Autodromo Nacional Monza. And last time out, we're in the US state of Georgia for Road Atlanta. But we settle here today on Friday, the 25th of April, for week number 6 in Portugal at the Algarve International Circuit. And after today, we've got an absolutely brilliant second half of the season to come, and we'll most notably, of course, in a week's time, we'll be making our way to Australia, down under, for the game of who's going to be the king of the mountain and the Mount Panorama circuit, but you will know and love it and refer to it as Bathurst. And some other highlights later on in the season, of course, includes our penultimate week, week number 11, when Wednesday the 28th of May, we'll be bringing you all the action from Germany at the Nürburgring and Nordschleife combined, or the Gesamtstrecke, I should say, in full, that's its proper name there, and we're bringing it all to a close with week 12 of 12 on Wednesday the 4th of June, with the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle Circuit playing host to all of our drivers. But coming into today, of course, well, we are here at the Grand Prix circuit of the circuit named after the city which it's situated, the Portimão Circuit, located in the city of Portimão in the Faro district of the Algarve region of Portugal. And thank you to iRacing.com for their absolutely brilliant circuit maps that come with a fantastic simulator service. And as we can see here, 15 corners and a two-dimensional image, but a two-dimensional image does not do this circuit justice with a wide array of elevation change, and we won't linger on it for much longer as we give you a quick reminder of our rules before we do go racing. And of course, this is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 50%, and that will mandate a pit stop midway through the race. The grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, and the race shall commence via a rolling start. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and if they go all the way up to 25, well, they will be given a disqualification and no longer able to continue. But let's continue then back to circuit side, as qualifying is right in the grips of what will be the late stages here, with only a couple of minutes left on the clock. And well, our strength of field today being 2,647. This Algarve circuit, not necessarily the most popular circuit on the service, but I can tell you one thing, it still brings out some of the big hitters out there, and plenty of new names as well. Well, Alexander Nicholas, a name that we've seen previously in Season 2 of 2025, and he's here today, setting the fastest laps out there at the moment by a comfortable, it's almost 7/10 of margin over Ryan van der Grip. And well, right now the Porsche 911 RSR driver ahead of the Corvette C8R driver, but it's looking as though it's a majority of Porsche fields today, albeit we've got a couple of Corvettes out there, a couple of BMWs as well, and we've also got the Ford GT, and where it's in the capable hands, you guessed it, from Cube Controls, none other than Cedric Boyce, who's back out there looking to try and deliver the goods. And Cube Controls having a brilliant day of racing last time out at Road Atlanta with what was a double podium for the team, and Cedric Boyce looking to try and carry on that theme today. But as he makes way on through, we've also got the one Ferrari of Andre N. Villela, as we see him making his way on down here in the number 22. I do believe he made his debut in the top split broadcast at Algarve in Season 1, if my memory serves me correctly. So great to see him back here today. And well, as Marcus Swiffer makes his way on through there in the very colourful Porsche 911 RSR, well, I believe he's on to what is his cool-down lap now, because he has used his 2 valid qualifying laps. Indeed, all the drivers in this closed qualifying session get 2 laps available to them, plus their out lap, after which they will bring the session to a close. And here's Max Chambers heading towards the line after a frustrating day at Road Atlanta last week. But as he crosses the line, he improves to a 40.229, but does not improve his position. In fact, gets demoted to 15th, with what is then Glenn Harrison moving up into 13th. And Glenn Harrison, a newcomer to the grid today. Indeed, we've got plenty of newcomers here. And we do see Todd Allier here making his way around in the light blue Porsche. And a driver who's very fast, don't count him out, but a driver who's going to be starting from towards the back of the field of 29 cars. He'll be starting at 23rd on the grid, and he's going to have to do it all from towards the back, but I think that's the way he enjoys it, battling his way through the field. But have we got anybody else out there on a valid lap at the moment? No, we haven't. We've got Allier making his way around towards the pit lane, and also Sergio Lopez here as he calls and climbs his way on through the corners. And we do welcome Sergio to the grid, another newcomer to the grid. We've got plenty of newcomers here today. In fact, I think it's about a 50-50 split of new names versus veterans, and that's a surprise, but a welcome one to be seen, that's for certain, as he makes his way in towards what will be their turn number 13, but goes very deep, I think, exploring just how late he can go on the brakes. But with a minute to go, we've also got Oreo Trevino, and what we see here, the Corvette C8R GTE driver, albeit I must say that's a very nice livery on the car, no doubt about that. If he was going to score points for liveries, he'd definitely be getting an accolade for it. But as he makes his way out to turn number 5, where he's also delivered his 2 flying laps and has not set a valid lap on either of them, so he's going to be starting 25th on this grid as I'm to understand it. And well, from there, it's all going to be for Trevino, and indeed for Trevino and a lot of other drivers, what will be a challenging day making their way through the field, because overtaking is highly possible here at Algarve, given the fact that the circuit is the best part of 2-3 cars wide at the best of times. We can see that in the pictures here, but not every corner is a prime overtaking opportunity, but most corners do present the opportunity if you're able to get close enough and look for that potential move. But as Trevino makes his way in towards what will be the last set of corners, the switchback hairpin sequence of turns 13 and 14, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying is going to come to a close in the last couple of seconds. And, well, once it does, that will be the story as we make our way to the grid. In fact, Todd Allier is going to see us then into what will be the gridding procedure, because qualifying is complete. Now, let's see how they all line up for one and only race today here at the Portimão Circuit. So as all of our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the Week 6 top split race. As we can see, it is going to be Alexandre Nicholas, who's taken up pole position. The Luxembourg driver there went absolutely staggering at 1 minute 38.079. I get the feeling he wanted a 1 minute 37. Couldn't quite achieve it, became exceedingly close. We then do have alongside him on the front row of the grid from the Benelux region, what will be Ryan van der Grip, who starts second. And then on your second row of the grid, it will be none other than Diego Gonzalez Garcia, who lines up third place ahead of Christophe Dubois, and Dubois having a brilliant time last time out at Road Atlanta, finishing on the podium, if my memory serves me correctly, in the Corvette C8R, and will be looking to try and do it again there. Meanwhile, Gonzalez Garcia, a newcomer to the grid, and therefore in the number 14, will be looking to try and make a good first impression. On row number 3, starting 5th, it will be Giovanni Lopez for Rincon Racing, indeed the infamous team there, who absolutely dominated Monza in the season finale of Season 1. Can we see Rincon Racing rise high once again in the form of Lopez? He'll be in the company of what will be the Oceania region driver of none other than Matthew Brome. And then from the number 8 driver to starting on the full fry of the grid, it is going to be starting 7th, none other than Roberto Farina, ahead of Michael Matthias, the community representative for the GTE Series. And we're very happy to have the American driver on the grid once again. It's always a great day when we do see him on the grid. And then when we see him complete in the top 10, another American driver and a regular of these races, Jordan Chamblin, and he'll be in the company of Sergio Lopez, who starts 10th. Then on what will be row number 6, best of the rest, 11th place, it'll be Dan Bishop. And the Briton will be followed up by none other than Ian McKay. The 2 Britons going toe-to-toe there on their debuts. We then have on row at number 7, the combination of Glenn Harrison and Javi Alfonso Moreno, 2 regulars there in the GTs, albeit this is the first time we've seen Harrison on the grid. Meanwhile, Moreno, this will be about the 7th time we see him on the top split grid, and great to see. And then we will have Max Chambers line up 15th there from the United Kingdom, ahead of none other than Adrian Garcia Benito, with then row number 9 going to the Soul Ford GT Cedric Boisier in 17th place for Cuba Racing, and we do see none other alongside him what will be there Andrea Villela, who lines up 18th. And then on the top 10th row of the grid, that'll be to complete your top 20. It will be Jonathan Palfreman, the Canadian driver, who will be in the company there, the Argentine of none other. And what will be, I do believe, starting 20th. Well, I do have 2 different names here for 2 different drivers, albeit I believe that is going to be Barbosa, albeit I've got a name here of what is Henry Viramaki, albeit I think it's Alfredo Barbosa who's meant to be starting 20th, but there's been a bit of a mix-up. We'll come on to that very shortly. I think he's decided to start from the pit lane, in fact, a number of drivers have, and that's why we've had a number of drivers promoted as I'm looking off-screen at my time in tower. But staying with the grid then, starting in 21st place, will be the Finnish flying man of what will be Henry Viramaki, ahead of none other than Marcus Seufer. Then we do have Todd Allier starting 23rd today, ahead of a newcomer to the grid, and it will be starting in 24th place, our driver there of what would be Lutke. And then we do have in P25 the wonderful driver of Oreo Trevino, ahead of Ben Shear, or Billy Shear I should say. And then from the driver from Virginia to what will be then starting on your final through row of the grid, the 14th row of the grid, the combination there of what is Sean Big and then none other than Tuna Kusuk. And then we do have on what is 29th, starting right at the back of the field, Robin Kaiser, who's got it all to do from the back of the field. Multiple drivers not setting qualifying times in qualifying, and particularly your drivers who line up in the final five grid positions. And well, it's definitely going to be a free-for-all for them in terms of how far can they push up the order as our drivers make their way around on this formation lap right now, just taking their time with it. It's a full formation lap, of course, and where it's a cloudy morning here in Portugal, but as our drivers gradually inched away on around, well, we do have the best part of half a formation lap to go before we do go to the green flag, and with it for 45 minutes of racing. And in the pit lane, as I look at my quality booth window, we do have Alfredo Barbosa, also Tuna Kusuk and Robin Kaiser. So Kusuk and Kaiser started for the pit lane, but effectively in their starting positions if they were on the grid. Alfredo Barbosa, meanwhile, either missing the gridding procedure or opting to start from the pit lane, perhaps a little bit nervous there. Some drivers opt to do so, and well, Barbosa will be starting 27th rather than in 20th place, and that's why we've seen the likes of Henry Viramaki move up the order here as we ride on board with a BMW M8 driver, one of only two BMW M8s here, the other one being in the hands of Lucas Lutke, and Lutke will be looking to try and go a bit further up. We do know this BMW typically does struggle at a lot of very technical circuits such as Algarve, albeit it's a very fast car on the straights, particularly that start-finish straight. It's going to be very hard to touch, but in the lower speed corners it may be a car that struggles by comparison. Meanwhile, as he tries to get the tyre temperature, the Porsche, a very popular car, we ride on one of the very popular Porsches here of Dan Bishop in what will be the number 17, and well, he's going to be going battling with Sergio Lopez when they do go green flag racing, as they now make the way into the last couple of quarters. But as Bishop comes around, and indeed the whole field now makes his way on through, we do see Ryan van der Grip and Alexandra Nicholas, the two pole sitter runners, making their way on through. But of course, Alexandra Nicholas was the only pole man in the end with that absolutely phenomenal qualifying time. But is he going to convert that qualifying pace into a dominant victory, or will he find himself in the close and firm company of Ryan van der Grip and Christopher Dubois, just to name two of many drivers here? Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way into Gout Corner at turn number 15, the final corner of what will be each and every lap, and indeed this formation lap, only time will tell, because it's to Alexandra Nicholas to take us to green flag racing here for 45 minutes of racing action. And he leaves it as late as possible, and in doing so, a number of drivers step on each other's toes further back, but Alexandra Nicholas goes right at the line, and as they all make their way down towards turn number 1, well, multiple drivers there being caught out by it. Right under the grip, under attack immediately from Gonzalez Garcia, who looks to go for a move. Oh, goodness me, Dubois being turned very sideways there, in contact with Giovanni Lopez. He gets elbowed out there. Is that John Shamble who's come careening to the side of him? Yes, it is, and well, it's a messy start for many of our drivers as they all make their way in towards turns 3 and 4, but as they do, the field now starts to settle down. I think everyone's trying to get a cool head on top, albeit I believe that's John Shamlin with damage to the car running out wide there at turn number 4, and we're trying to get the car back into a controllable state, and all that hard work in qualifying has been for naught. But as they come down to the braking zone, Glenn Harrison here on the attack versus Michael Matthias. Matthias gaining places. Max Chambers, meanwhile, now also looking to go side by side there versus Sergio Lopez. Will get ahead for the time being. Lopez fighting with Dan Bishop a little bit further back in the battle, the two white Porsches, and into the braking zone they go for turns at 7, 8 and 9, and Javier Alfonso Moreno looking to go all the way around the outside of Bishop here through the corner. It's a lovely move in the number 16 driver, and he's going to get it done there in what is the yellow and red Porsche 911 RSR as he makes the place up to 12. Cedric Boyce here right behind them as they go up the rise now into turns 10 and 11. What is the braking zone for turn 11 is turn number 10 effectively. A very tricky corner combination. Further back down the order, Oriol Trevino making some places early on, 3 places gained, and right now where's the black and blue Corvette C8R? He's got Todd Allier all over the back of him as they head up the rise in towards turns 13 and 14. Andre Envalella there trying to make his way on on around the outside of Ian McKay, but Ian McKay is going to hold the position there and holds on to 16th place as they all settle into a line now as they make the way out to turn number 14. But it's a little bit sideways where for one of our drivers, and meanwhile going very deep is Trevino. Todd Alley is going to try and get on the inside here into Gout Corner, and as they come through the right-hander, well, who's going to back out the most out of the two of them? Well, Alley absolutely tucks absolutely tight to the apex curve, but he's going to let Trevino go around the outside of him for a brief moment as Trevino carries the speed briefly, but roaring their way onto lap number 2. Trevino will take the place, but after one lap of racing, already a second ahead is Alexandre Nicholas as he comes through turn number 3. There's Ryan van der Grip in second, Diogo Gonzalez Garcia in third ahead of Giovanni Lopez, Roberto Frina is in 5th, Christopher Dubois in 6th ahead of Matthew Broom, followed by Michael Matthias. He's not gained or lost any places since the start, but to be fair, he'll be happy with that. Glenn Harrison is 9th, Max Chambers is 10th, and Sergio Lopez is best to rest in 11th. But meanwhile, whilst all that's playing out, Dan Bishop trying to come back here, Alfonso Moreno as they come down, and after that brilliant move that was made by Moreno, a big lock up on the brakes there, under braking into turn number 5. The car skids sideways there with what's the front left brake locking up, but catches the car in time and decides to let the brakes go. And Cedric Boyce sees an opportunity. Can he go all the way around the outside of what is none other than Dan Bishop into turn number 8? And the answer is yes, he can. And Boyce hit up another place there, now up to 13th from 17th place. And as they make the way over the rise and down in towards what will be turns 9 and then 10 and 11. Well, right now, Cedric Boyce here on the move here on a charge. And the Ford GT driver, I don't know what went wrong in qualifying, but right now is absolutely demonstrating the pace he's got in the race. As Jonathan Powerman there, a big lock up on the front right brake into turn 11. It's very easy to make that mistake, even when the tyres and brakes up to temperature. But right now, the number 19 driver there being caught out, but not caught out completely, as he's got Ian McKay and John Shamblin now trying to come through the field. In particular, you would imagine that Shamblin, with what was that brilliant qualifying performance, well, he's going to try and make his way through it as quickly as he can, but he's got damage on that car, and therefore that may be holding him back compared to the pace he'd like to deliver. As the drivers make the way on through turn number 15 and roll the way onto the next lap, we're looking back up towards the front of the field, and a quick sneak peek there from Giovanni Lopez looking for the move of Gonzalez Garcia as they come down in towards turn number 1. Can't quite find it, so Diego Gonzalez Garcia stays ahead for now as the sun starts to come out here, but will it be bright times for many? We'll have to see. As further on back, Jonathan Powerman here now getting a bit closer to Bishop as they come on through. Car coming out the pit lane there, that's Robin Kaiser was involved in one of the early instance, particularly on what was the end of the formation lap with our pole sitter deciding to go so late in the day, which is legally allowed to do, to be fair. He can choose when to go, as long as he goes between when the safety cars cross the safety car pit entry line and what is the start-finish line, which he did. He chose to go practically at the start-finish line, did Alexandre Nicholas. 9, it's a long run down towards turn 1, and well, it's fair play to him, but meanwhile, fair play here as John Shamblin tries to go away for the move into turn number 5 versus Ian McKay, and McKay just simply says we could try it, but it's not going to work out because I'll just simply give you the space to lock at your front brakes. And as they come up the rise and in towards turn 7 and 8, with Villela right behind here, and right now trying to find a move, but he can't quite find one at this time, and having to play a bit of the patience game here. But as they play the patience game, we need to take a look back at some of those opening lap instants with regards to what exactly went wrong for a number of drivers, and in particular we take a look back to what was the end of the formation lap and Lucas Ludker, who was right in the core of what was that big shunt between multiple drivers, and here's the quick replay. Now, this was as they were making their way around. You're going to see Ludger there in the Corvette C8R in what is the black and light blue car, getting very close to the back of Todd Alley. In fact, no, he's in the BMW. Let me correct myself there. That was Trevino in the Corvette, and Ludger just going a bit too soon and tapping the rear of Marcus Soifer, who in the end just being picked off there by accident. And I think Ludger just getting a little bit too eager with the throttle pedal, and completely understandable given the fact he was very eager to make some progress, but it wasn't to happen. Meanwhile, as we do come back to what is your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, let's not dwell on that for too long. Well, now we do come back to what is the start of lap number 4, and here's the fight for 10th place at the moment, and this is being led by Sergio Lopez, but right now he's got a long, hungry pack of Porsches behind him, albeit you can tell there's one car slightly different. It's looking a little bit flatter and a bit more American, albeit, oh my goodness, and what on earth's happened there? That is Glenn Harrison, who's gone very sideways, coming out of turn number 1 in towards 2. Glenn Harrison being escorted off the road there, and well, the Skull machine right now, as you can see on the side of the car there, trying to rejoin, does rejoin all the way down to 25th, and Harrison will be absolutely fuming at that one. But meanwhile, there's fuming action here as it's going to be free wide. Villela on the outside, Shamblin in the middle, and McKay on the the outside. And as they roar the way through, Villela goes up the inside, takes one. Does he get both of them? Well, no, Shamblin now tries to come back at him as they make the way in towards turn number 6, over the crest and in towards 7 they go. And Villela on the inside there in the Ferrari 488. He's going to try and go for it, but Shamblin says I can go around the outside. Villela right now trying to carry all the speed around the inside there of what will be turn number 8 in towards 9, but he's not going to find it, as you'll very very shortly see what will be an orange Ferrari most likely pop into your picture. Well, in fact, no, you won't, because they come over the rise here. You'll see that Valella's having to go defensive versus McKay, and McKay right now trying to be adventurous here through turns 10 and 11. Can he get it done as Benito closes up behind, and it's going to be very close. They're still too wide as they head in towards turns 13 and 14, and McKay's there. Is he going to be given the space to exist? Yes, he is. Valella being very respectful there. He could have shut the door, but he decides not to in the number 22 Ferrari, and well, the sole Ferrari on this grid right now. We know that Ferrari is a very particular lady of the GTE class in terms of the fact it's got a very narrow tyre window in terms of those tyre temperatures, but if you can keep it in that window, it performs exceptionally well at a lot of circuits, and the Algarve circuit is no exception as they make the way out of that lap and on to the next one. But right now, Andrea Valella trying to make two places, but Indian can only make the one as Shamblin runs away. But here comes McKay once again as they roll the way down, and also Benito thinks about three wide, but then decides no, you don't. But he goes up the inside of Valella as meanwhile McKay takes too much apex curve. It bounces the car out. He uses the runoff area there to survive. Oh, goodness me, comes back across onto the face there, Valella, and they all come together. Benito takes evasive action, and in the end, pointing the wrong way, McKay just parks up right now, and he's got nowhere to go until the field comes on through. But whilst all that's happened, Jonathan Powerman, meanwhile, in what is there, the silver, blue, and purple and black Porsche as he follows around what is Alfonso Moreno. Moreno right now going slowly with a big lock up there into turn number 5. It looks small, but I can tell you it was big because the pace they've lost to the Cedric Boycia coming out of turn number 5 in towards 6-7 is notable. And now coming on through the right hand, well, Jordan Shamblin's already caught up to the back of this as we do say hello to OK Fahrenheit, who I believe is cheering on at Michael Matthias today and saying that he's going to eat them up. And well, Matthias right now not showing any signs of making any places this time, still in 8th place off camera. But I can tell you one thing, he is a bit more of a strategic driver, and I think he'll be focusing more on the second half of the race because, for a reminder, the fact we've got a mandated pit stop for fuel, you don't normally see any drivers in the GT class races go for tyre changes. The tyres can last the 45 minutes. Instead, the whole aim of the game here is to save fuel where you can and save the tyres, and that's not one way to save the tyres for what is Javi Alfonso Moreno. In fact, going very wide there out to turn number 13. He rejoined off camera, and he's made his way back into 14. He's just lost the best part of 4 places, dropping all the way down from 11th to 15th. Now he's got to go chasing it once again, and well, this Algarve circuit not offering much grip whatsoever. But meanwhile, battle for 3rd place here, and that is Giovanni Lopez up the inside of Diego Gonzalez Garcia, and we'll get a replay of that shortly. But look in there, what is this battle for 3rd? A big tank slapper there for Gonzalez Garcia, struggling with rear grip as they make the way out of turn 3 in towards 4, now down towards 5. But Lopez open up a half-second gap here as they make the way onwards towards that braking zone for the hairpin, and absolutely a brilliant piece of driving here from the Porsche driver in the number 4 to break away from his fellow Porsche chasers, albeit you do have a Corvette of Dubois now starting to latch onto the back of this battling, so he's going to become a bit of a contender later on. We do know that Corvette has a lot of tyre life in it compared to its rivals. It is the strongest car over the race distance typically with regards to tyre life, and will that come in to be a major factor for all the Corvette drivers, particularly when we get into the final 10 minutes of the race in here, where we can see the tyres go off for the other GT machines, but the Corvette can stay alive so long as the driver doesn't push the tyre compound too hard on the opening stint. As they make the way on towards what will be turns at 12 and 13 shortly. Well, Lopez there having made that move, but the question many of you may be asking is, well, can we see a replay of how Lopez got the move done? And the answer is that yes, we can, and here's the replay to explain how Lopez made that move. So it was a run down the start-finish straight here. You'll see Lopez tucked firmly into the toe of Gonzalez Garcia, goes the inside here into turn number 1. They go too wide into the apex, and in the end, it's a classic move from Giovanni Lopez. And I think Gonzalez Garcia saw the writing on the wall there and decided, you know what, it's not worth me fighting it, because otherwise I'm only going to cost myself and everybody else around me time, and it's time I can't afford, given the fact I need to look after these tyres much like my rivals. And well, for Gonzalez Garcia, you never know what can happen. He can latch onto the toe right now of Lopez for the rest of this stint, save some fuel, which you can do by simply lifting and coasting about 50 metres before each and every braking zone, particularly on that long start finish straight. You can save a little bit, and in doing so he may be able to leapfrog his way back into 3rd place when they all come out the pit lane much later on. But the pit window is definitely not open yet. You can see a much more conservative line there from Gonzalez Garcia and Farina versus Lopez. Lopez really using all the width of the circuit coming out of turn number 3, and well, meanwhile his rivals all opting to take a tight exit line there to set their run up through turn number 4, and that could be a difference of setup where some drivers have decided to go for a little bit less of corner speed or corner exit speed compared to their rivals and opted to focus a bit more on the straights. But meanwhile, as we do look to Dan Bishop here, well, now he's looking to try and break his way a bit deeper into this top 15. He's currently 15th place, chasing after Alfonso Moreno, as we do see a lock up there for Powerman just off camera, but you did see the brake dust going up in the air, and as they come on through, Todd Alia, meanwhile, where he's got Oriol Trevino trying to chase after him here, but Alia, who started on 23rd on the grid, he's already up to 16th place and is gradually picking off the places, and well, as he makes his way on through in towards turns 7, 8 and then 9, well, Alia right now continues to crusade his way up the order, and in that number 6 car, where he runs a bit wide there coming out of turn number 8, that's going to cost him some time as he makes one down. You can see it, Trevino immediately looking for the move here as they make the way up the rise and over the crest. We ride on board the dashboard here of what is the number 9 Corvette, and as they come through the right hand of both drivers going a bit deep there, Trevino really getting sucked into the dirty air of Alia's car, really right now getting hyperfixated, I think, on chasing that Porsche down. Can't look for a move here in towards turn number 13. We know the Porsche is the strongest on the brakes, but what he can do is stay firmly in the hunt as they make the way towards turn number 14, and Oriol Trevino here just playing the patience game, having started 25th on this grid as Alia goes a bit wide out the corner, but just about keeps in track limits and then runs wide on the XF14. Into 15 they go, and Trevino right now, well, he's got to modulate the throttle a little bit there, given the dirty off the back of that Porsche. He can't be as aggressive through Galp corner as he would like to in clean air, given the fact it will wash out the front end of the car and cause a lot of understeer, but pan their way down. Look at the speed that Trevino's picking up here in the toe. He has gained a huge amount of time. Surely he's going to pull to the inside. Yes, he is the answer. Going all in here, side by side into turn 1, and Oriol Trevino makes his way into 16th as Todd Alia there has to give the space, knowing he hasn't got a response. But then again, we could see it come later on the lap as they come out of 3 and in towards 4, but Trevino there demonstrating just how much speed is in that Corvette down the start finish straight and in the toe. Absolutely phenomenal straight line speed there, but then again, could he struggle in the corners? Well, time will tell. But meanwhile, time is running out here for Roberto Farina because he's got a growing presence of what is the Cuba racing machine of Christophe Dubois, which is chasing him up the rise here in towards turns 10 and 11. These two continue to play the game of chase, but the problem is they are falling off the back of the third place battle between Lopez and Gonzalez Garcia as they head in towards turn number 13. And right now Farina there, well, Dubois could look for a potential move into the braking zone. Is he going to go for it? The answer is no, he's not. He is going to be patient here as Dubois. He knows he's got a long straight coming out of the next corner, albeit technically interrupted by turn number 15, but the point being he's got a much better place to go for an overtaking move if he should desire it as they head on towards Galp corner, and as they make the way on out here, roaring their way around to complete what will be their 8th lap of the circuit. Well, onwards they go, and you can see up the front Lopez just trying to do a little bit of bobbing and weaving down the straight to break the toe Gonzalez Garcia, albeit he's not going to break it that easily. And as they head across that timeline now, we're almost a third of the way complete to this race, plus the final lap, of course, at the distance. We've got a bit of way to go, but right now these little pockets of batting are starting to become much more clear on our screens as they head in towards turn at number 3 this time, and Farina Dubois right now locked in, but neither driver giving in at this time, and well, both of them running on the absolute limit as they come on through in towards turn 5. Meanwhile, we saw Trevino go ahead of Alia into turn 1 on the previous lap, but this time around as they make their way into turn 1, Alia close, but decides he doesn't want to go for the move, instead just opts to stay in the slipstream here, and I think realising now he might be locked into a bit of a battle with this Corvette driver, and both of them trying to make a bit more progress. But meanwhile, speaking to some drivers who haven't made progress, it's all gone the wrong way for them. We take a look back at what happened between Ian McKay and Andrea Villela on what was lap number 5 a few laps ago, and this was their instant, I believe, into turn 1, and Will McKay then taking too much apex curve, it kicks the car out wide as he goes to rejoin coming out of 2. Villela carrying too much speed, I don't think expecting the rejoin from McKay there, and they make the contact. Unfortunately, McKay not getting the car stopped in time, and it makes a secondary contact with Villela, and then the rest of the field having to segue its way around the scene of the incident. Meanwhile, still that happened, Tuna Kutsuk had a separate incident, and this was the BMW M8 driver coming out of turn 9 in towards turn number 10, and well, can't go straight on there, a little bit offline, tries to carry all the speed, and the rear lets go there, just dropping gears and having a bit too much steering lock, and end up almost into the gravel trap, but just about avoiding that. But a bit of a frustrating moment there for the BMW M8 driver, but I'm sure he'll get it back together when he can. But 2 major incidents over the last few laps, and we return to live racing now as we do make our way into the 16th minute of racing, and well, at the very front of the field is this man, the pole sitter, who right now is running away rampant by 4.3 seconds, and Nicholas right now flying off into the distance with Van der Grip giving chase, and will these two exchanging lap times, the gap in lap time between the two of them being the best part of 2 tenths on average in the favour of Alexander Nicholas. So Van der Grip is not letting Alexander Nicholas just disappear off into the distance willingly. He is chasing it, but he hasn't got the pace to chase it hard enough. But meanwhile, speaking of a hard chase here, we're told Alia looking for the move. This is the fight for 16th once again. Looks up the inside into turn 1 versus Trevino, but decides not to go for it this time. Carries too much speed there into turn 1, goes wide now to back off there as he rejoins in order to settle the car back down, but very eager to make the move is Alia, but it's not forthcoming here, and a bit of frustration potentially brewing, but I'm sure that battle is going to absolutely get to a crescendo between these two as the laps continue to be clocked up. Further behind them, We do have the Corvette here of Billy Shear as they make the way through turn 3 and in towards 4. And right now, the number 25 driver will, after what was a little bit of an exciting start for many towards the back end of the grid, given the fact the drivers who started on the final 4 rows of the grid that started actually out of the circuit, not in the pit lane, because we had a number of drivers opt to start from the pit lane. Well, they end up with a lot of exchange places before they went green flag racing, and Billy Shear being one of them, chasing after Marcus Cypher, who got turned around very quickly, and Sean Begg as well, who managed to avoid all the chaos around him. And Sean Begg in the 19th place in the number 26 Porsche. Right now you can see there in the grey Porsche at the head of this trio. We're right on board the last of the drivers in this trio. Well, right now they're all pushing each other onwards, but Shear just watching from behind him, thinking where could he get involved as he makes his way over the crest and in towards turns 10 and 11. That's going to be a mistake from Cypher there, almost ran deep. You saw a brief amount of brake smoke there kick up as he went onto the brakes, but managed to get it together. That shows you how hard these 3 drivers are pushing. They may not be as fast as our leaders, but they're all pushing in their own right. It's a big lock up there from Marcus Cypher on the front left brake, and that's going to hurt that tyre now coming in towards turn number 14, and he's going to lose a lot of tyre life here as they come through the long right-hander, and particularly Galp corner as well, because you lean so heavily on the left-hand side tyres for these corners, and it is going to prove troublesome later on, albeit whilst all this is playing out. Meanwhile, change of place there at what is the best of rest position in 11th, and that is Jonathan Powerful up the inside of Cedric Boycia. Boycia trying to come back here in the Ford GT, but he can't quite do it into turn number 3, and as they come up the rise, John Shamblin now over the back of this as well, thinking, can I play? When's it going to be my turn? Will we ride on board here? Shamblin gets an absolute lion's launch there out of turn number 4. Down they go, and well, they're going to be 3 wide here towards the hairpin, or at least diagonally 3 wide. Looks like the inside of contact there as he squeezed to the apex by with Cedric Boycia. Boycia is turned, rejoins their right into the back of Dan Bishop. They're all absolutely pushing each other to the limit here, and well, Shamblin would argue he had to be given some space. Boycia would argue we weren't alongside. I'm allowed to defend that line, but I think it's going to be a difference of 2 opinions there between drivers. As the English saying goes, it's going to be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, and as they make their way over the crest and down towards turn number 9 up towards 10, which often Powerful Man right now may have got clear of that battle, but he's going to be pulled back into it immediately. It's John Shamblin right now absolutely on the attack here, and will Shamblin trying to recover the places he lost on that open lap instant through turns 3 and 4 as they head in towards turn 13. Well, right now, Shamblin there has got his old rival with Powerful Man right in front of him. These two have battled each other for the best part of multiple seasons of the GTE Sprint Series. And, well, there's always fireworks between them, and also Max Chambers, albeit Chambers a bit further up the road in 9th place, and a bit of a quiet race right now for Max Chambers. That's not to besmirch him at all, but normally he's one of the ones who has one of the more bombastic races. Particularly many of you remember Road Atlanta last week, where Chambers got caught up in a lot of action, as did Shamblin. But right now, it is Shamblin who really is taken to the spotlight in terms of the fighting. As they head down the start finish straight, looking a bit further up the road at the end of it, and through turn number 3, this is Roberto Freenut and Christophe Dubois exchanging places here, or attempted to, and then meanwhile coming down towards turn number 1, we come back to the exchange of Shamblin and Powerful Man, and well, it's a classic run into turn 1 from Jordan Shamblin, and moves his way in towards what is now turn number 11, to P11 I should say, into turn number 3, as I mince my words there, and well, Jordan Shamblin up to 11th, and leaving Powerful Man behind him, and Powerful Man now will have Dan Bishop looking to go on the attack as they draw the way in towards turn number 5, but coming on down in towards the braking zone, and they are all going to settle down for a brief moment. Well, a bit further back, we do have Henry Viramaki and Billy Shear. She's going up the inside in towards turn number 3. A big lock up down the front right brakes. The Corvette C8R driver absolutely milking the carbon ceramic disc out that front right brake. That brake is going to be scorching hot coming down in towards turn number 5. Well, he's going to have to be very cautious how he applies the brakes here as they come on down. Through left hand they go, and Henry Viramaki making a place up into what is 20th place. How did he make the place happen? We're going to get a replay of that very shortly, but right now as they come in towards turn number 7, will the Corvette driver Ashir look for another move? No, he won't, as they make their way through 7, 8, and that BMW holding firm. But here's the replay of how Viramaki made the place for 20th as they made their way down the start finish straight then, and this was onto the lap they're currently on, and Viramaki there in the tow, that BMW having such a huge speed advantage there with the slipstream aiding it, and into turn 1, well, it was a classic one and done move, despite the fact he did go a bit deep there into turn 1. That gave Ashir the confidence to try and go for the move here into turn number 3, but that big lock up in the end taking away that confidence as quickly as it grew. But as we come back to your live racing pictures, well, we're heading towards the halfway point of this race, and with it now we are starting to enter potential pit stop territory for all of our drives. We normally do see that pit window open around the 18th minute and potentially run all the way up to what is somewhere in the region of the 35th minute, and I do believe at this Algarve circuit we normally have seen the latest pit stops be based on what was season 1 at the best part of around 33 to 37 minutes in for the leaders. Ashir is into the pit lane as I look out my contour booth window, so he's decided pretty much given that lock up to cool the tyre down on immediately and bring himself into the pits and get the fuel in the car. And out of our 29 starters, we have unfortunately lost none other than what is Glenn Harrison, and I believe Ian McKay is in the pit lane having the car repaired, so therefore we do have currently 27 drivers running out of the circuit, but there's still going to be plenty of fight in there, no doubt about it. You're seeing a fight growing here between Giovanni Lopez and Gonzalez Garcia, and well, Lopez for a long time was behind Gonzalez Garcia, but they have changed places. Meanwhile, there's a change of position as well, and Christophe Dubois back ahead of Roberto Farino, just went a little bit deep into turn number 11, and Dubois immediately saying, thank you very much, I'll take that place, and now I'm going to walk away with it for a brief period of time, because I think Garcia is going to have other ideas here as they make the way down into turn number 14, and we are really seeing a back and forth right now between the Corvette and the Porsche, the two most popular cars in GT, no doubt about it, and the Corvette being the car that's not as fast over a single lap here at the Portimão Circuit, but definitely it seems like it's the more consistent car compared to the Porsche if you're able to get comfortable with it. And as they make their way down the start-finish straight, of course, these two cars known for their differences, where the Porsche is much stronger in the low-speed traction zones, so particularly the hairpins such as turn number 5, also turns 13 and 14. The Corvette struggling to get the power down in the lower gears by comparison, but the Corvette does have that greater tyre life over the distance, and that is the difference between the two of them as they make the way out of turn number 3 and in towards 4. And you can again see that approach there from Farina, a natural concertina effect back and forth between these two, whereby Farina gets close and has to fall back, but Dubois does struggle a little bit on the exit of those corners for the traction, and Farina therefore wants to get close but needs to pick the right time to get close in order to make a move. And again, you'll see it here. Dubois goes a little bit wide out of the corner, and that's where he's trying to get the power down, but unfortunately the Corvette cannot comfortably get as much rotation in what is first or second gear compared to the Porsche. And as they come over the crest now through 7 in towards 8, well, this right-hander here, again, it'll be an opportunity for Farina to get close, but not close enough. But really right now trying to size up his rival as the number 3 tries to keep the number 10 at bay for a little bit longer here today. But over the crest, they'll go into turns 10 and 11, and Farina there, thinking about carrying the speed, but decides against it, instead going for a much more conservative line. Dan Bishop still on the hunt as he has got Cedric Boissier behind, and keeping in mind there was that contact for Cedric Boissier only moments ago between himself and John Shemelin. Let's put Boissier all the way to the back of this trio, and we'll through the left and in towards the double right they come. And as they do, we're halfway through the race. We've still got another half to go plus that final lap, and right now the only driver who's opted to pit in terms of the strategic pit stop, we believe, is none other than Billy Shee. And well, we have had Sean Begg also coming to the pit lane, so let me correct myself there. So we might have a couple of pit stops that have been served, but if the drive's a little bit further down and no real reference marker right now for what could happen inside the top 15 if you do come in and where it's going to put you in terms of pace and relative strategy wise compared to those who are still staying out there and delivering the laps. But will we see more drivers make their way into the pit lane in due course? My gut feeling says yes, we will soon. So I think some drivers are now starting to get locked into these battles where they can't clear them. And Dan Bishop could be one of many drivers who may benefit here from going for an undercut. But the problem is, as you look at the circuit map on the top right corner of your screen, you go for the undercut. Where is it going to put you out of the circuit? Will you find traffic? Will you find clear air? And that's the problem. Because the field has become quite separated now, it does mean you are at the risk of ending up finding more traffic rather than clear air when you come out the pit lane. And that can completely upset the strategy and cost you time rather than gain you time, and costing time, that could cost you potential places, and therefore it's a difficult gamble to try and work out here, particularly if you haven't got a spotter. But a number of these drivers will have spotters and strategy analysts who'll be trying to tell them exactly when they need to come on in. But as they come down towards turn at number 5, Bishop close but not close. They'll try and look for the move on Powerful Man there as Boissier just watching behind, and Oreo Trevino, one of the surprise stars of today on his debut in the top split broadcast, no doubt about it, chasing after Javi Alonso Moreno. And right now the two drivers here battling for 15th place as they make the way over there. That Corvette may not be the fastest out there, but my goodness, and that number 9, he's definitely having a lot of fun chasing after his rivals. And well, the number 16 Porsche looking a little bit vulnerable as they come over the crest and in towards what will be turns 10 and 11. We're riding on board here with what is the number 9. The Corvette absolutely on a mission right now to gain places. Gets a much better run there through 10 in towards 11. Decides to go for the cutback, interestingly, there, coming out of 11 into 12. Now, I wonder if Trevino is potentially struggling with hot temperatures over the front of the car, because to go that conservatively to the outside of turn at number 12 and turning, the Corvette would be able to do it naturally. But I think Trevino not happy running the dirty air of that Porsche. And again, you can see a mistake there from Farina. Really ends up having to crawl out the corner. I think, well, is Moreno Moreno, I should say, not Freener. Two similar cars, two similar liveries. However, not the same driver. But as they make the way out of turn 14 in towards 15, well, right now, Javier Alfonso Moreno struggling with what is rotation in that Porsche and being able to get the car to grip back up. But Trevino deciding just to stay behind and trying to stay out of that dirty air in the low-speed corners. And I think just not happy with the way the balance of the car is as he makes his way through turn number 1, gets very close there, but carrying so much speed. And I think we are starting to see where Oriol Trevino actually happy in clear air. But as soon as he gets close behind another car, this Corvette right now starts to not want to cooperate anymore. And that lack of cooperation is going to feel alarming for the driver, because if the car's not working nicely in these situations, it can be very hard to pass. But as they make the way down towards turn number 5, they stay as they were for the time being, even though he is climbing hand over fist over the back of his rival, but can't get close enough to try and make a move. Meanwhile, back all the way up inside the top 5, well, this is the fight for third, and Giovanni Lopez still ahead at the moment of Gonzalez Garcia, but you can see how Dubois and Farina are both closing up here, and the drivers making the way from left into right as they come in towards turn number 14. Well, Kusuk is in the pit lane. Tuna Kusuk from 22nd place. We believe that's going to put him a long way down the order, potentially all the way down to what will be around 24th, 25th, unless we're mistaken. But the point being, we are starting to see a couple more drivers who are further down the order coming into the pit lane, but nobody inside the top 15 at the moment daring to come into the pits. I think everyone's waiting for their rivals behind them or around them to go for the pit stop, and then they will react accordingly. And I think it is going to be a game of who plays a bluff, as Matthew Broom has come on in, and he was running at the time all the way in what was 7th place, so he will be the first of our top 10 runners to come into the pit lane, and this could trigger a domino effect here of other drivers making their way into the pit lane if they feel as though he's going to be a good indicator that this time out then you can get clear air. So we're going to keep an eye on Broom, because he could make a lot of time here as a result of this undercut pit stop, particularly given the fact that a lot of drivers are going very deep here, whereas normally right now we would have seen about 50-50 split of pit stops compared to drivers who are still out there. And well, another example is the battle between Powerman, Bishop and Boycia for what is 12th place of the circuit, 11th right now, but of course they will need to come into the pit, and Broom we would expect will get back ahead of them, as we also do have Marcus Swiffer into the pit lane as I look out my commentary booth window, albeit Swiffer was much further down the order. But the point is, that goes to show you how reluctant most drivers are to come into the pits at the moment. Nobody wants to give up track position or risk losing strategic position over time, but as they make the way on through, well, right now the risk will be that you're going to get so close to your rivals that you're not going to find your way through. As we jump on board here with Cedric Boyce in a very cramped Ford GT cockpit, and well, having spoken to a number of drivers who have run the Ford GT in the GTE series for the best part of what's been multiple seasons, they've all said the same thing. It's a wonderful car to drive, but this cockpit is absolutely tiny. But still, we get a prime view out the front window of it, because Bishop right now all over the back of Powerman. I thought he was going to go for the move there into turns 10 and 11, decides not to. Meanwhile, looking out the content booth window, we do have Alexandra Nicholas and also Ryan van der Grip both coming into the pits, so they've decided enough's enough. That might be what will be the bell tolling for everybody to come into the pit lane, so therefore the fuel tank's not going anywhere near as long. As meanwhile, in fact, Christophe Dubois is into the what is another lap, so he's going to stay out there. He's been able to save enough fuel in the Cube racing machine, so there's a bit of a surprise. And well, meanwhile, Boycia, Powerman and Bishop, albeit not necessarily in that order, but Powerman will lead this trio on around. Michael Matthias has stayed out as well, but I think these three drivers who we're riding with are all going to come into the pits. Yes, they are. Boycia gets very close there on pit entry. He wants to get ahead, but the problem is it's the big traffic jam where he's going to get alongside there as they make the way down pit line. And well, it's practically going to be a race to get to your pit stall, and who could come out before the other. Well, they make the way through. Powerman's the first to come to his pit stall. There will be Boycia, and then Bishop's got one further down the road, but very close and tasty between all of them. Meanwhile, Ryan van der Grip has come out. He's just come out ahead of Alfonso Moreno. Moreno's all over the back of him. Will he go for a move into turn 3? No, he won't. And Alfonso Moreno at this point is going to lose some time to Trevino behind, but van der Grip's going to be very happy about that. The fact he's come out in clear air and bought himself time. Meanwhile, Lopez and Gonzalez Garcia are as they were. Meanwhile, what about Powerman versus Alia versus Bishop versus Boycia? Well, Ali's coming into his pit stall. Meanwhile, they make the way down the pit lane. Powerman comes out ahead, and Bishop comes out ahead of Boycia. Well, Boycia trying to get ahead, but in the end, he couldn't do so. He's practically come out where he entered the pit lane, and that is absolutely glued to the rear of that Porsche 911 RSR. And the Ford GT driver right now is probably asking himself, what do I have to do and to get ahead of Dan Bishop? And well, the answer is I don't know either, because right now whatever he's throwing at Bishop, he can't seem to land where's a decisive blow in terms of making that move stick. But as they come out to turn number 4, and well, Powerman immediately pulling away there. Is that the same Jonathan Powerman that we saw come into the pit lane? Because right now he's absolutely running off in this group. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, and that lockup's not going to help him. And that traffic in front is going to be Tuna Kusuk, I believe. That's not Lucas Lutka, because Lutka would be in a red BMW by comparison comparison, but as they all make the way on down, well, right now it's all going to be exchanges between them very quickly as they roar the way on out. But these drivers absolutely pushing it to the limit as they roar the way on through. And in fact, that is Lucas Ludker. Let me correct myself there again. I'm getting two car colorations mixed up. I can be forgiven for that, surely. But Lucas Ludker being what is the best part of the lap down here, or 2 laps down on our overall leaders. Well, right now, the number 13 driver won't want to get in the way of this batting for too long, because otherwise he could cost them time and see his race go backwards rather than forwards. But whilst all this is happening, as he goes very deep, Christophe Dubois leaves the pit lane, and Dubois here, is he going to come out in third place? Well, Giovanni Lopez makes his way on down, and yes, the answer is Christophe Dubois has leapt into third. Now here comes Lopez. He's going to get very close. That's the slam on the brakes. Also, here comes Garcia as they make the way on through, and well, Lopez is not happy. You could see the flash of the lights there, but Christophe Dubois, now that is being very strategic. Christophe Dubois pretty much says, you know what, I'm going to take the place, I'm going to take my time through turn number 1, and I'm going to make you all queue up behind me as we go on to another lap. And Christophe Dubois right now has played this strategy absolutely brilliantly. I don't think Lopez is going to be too happy that it was practically brought to a standstill coming through turn number 1, but Dubois, to be fair to him, managed to put himself onto the racing line, and in the end decided to drag himself through turn number 1 and say to Lopez, as much as you want the run into turns 2 and 3 to get the place back off of me, I'm not going to let you have it, and I'm going to make you fight Gonzalez Garcia behind. And right now, Christophe Dubois, 2 places gained through one very important pit stop, and that is the overcut there, working to the advantage of number 13, drawing a lot of fuel saving as well. In the fact, he had a 1 second shorter pit stop time, and that's what gave him the opportunity to launch his way ahead. But can he hold on now in the Corvette C8R and make it a double podium for Corvette? With Ryan van der Grip, the Corvette driver, is the best part of 12.5 seconds up the road. And Dubois right now is really fending off the rest of his rivals to be on that podium. As you can see, Gonzalez Garcia once again taking a little bit of an adventurous outside line there at turn number 13. In towards 14, and number 14 driver right now, I think very eager to make some progress, but the problem is he's coming up against the brick wall of dirty air off the back of Lopez's car, and that dirty air just cost him the ability to go on the attack. But from them, back to 2 Porsches battling as well. This is Bishop versus Palfreman as they head in the rise and in towards turn number 13, and we're going defensive there. It's Jonathan Palfreman as me. Oh boy, Sia goes very deep there, albeit doesn't put him at risk of losing the position, but he loses the right to be in that battle between Bishop and Palfreman down the start for this straight. But the point is that Boyce is struggling a little bit, and right now Palfreman will keep Bishop away from him at a time. But as we ride on board here, looking back from the rear of what is the number 19 of Jonathan Palfreman, well, here comes Bishop then. He's 3.5 tenths back. Has he got enough of a tow here down the start for this straight to think about a move? And the answer is no, he hasn't. And in fact, is Dan Bishop not closing at all here on the start for this straight? I don't think he is. I think Dan Bishop has invested in so much rear wing, and with regards to what is the gearing of that Porsche 911 RSR is made for the corners, it's not made for the straights, that Bishop is not gaining anything on Palfreman on the straights, and therefore Jonathan Palfreman right now has bought himself time, and that is one way you can set a car up for what is the Portimão Circuit. You can go for a car that's very fast in that start for this straight and just be an absolute bully in the corners in terms of you just say to your rolls, look, I'm ahead of you, what are you going to do? I'll just defend each and every corner and make myself so wide. So Jonathan Palfreman, I think, has come here today with perhaps the fastest Porsche that anybody's brought to Portugal, and as he makes his way in towards turns 7 and 8, Dan Bishop there's having to watch, wait and think, okay, how can I get under his skin? Well, what Bishop's got to do, he's got to use his better corner speed here to literally be within tenths, if not a tenth, indeed a hundredth of what is Palfreman on corner exit. Alternatively, he's got to go for a big move into one of these low speed corners, because that's where Bishop will have the advantage, but he's got to do it sensibly. And speaking of sensible battles here, well, Oriol Trevino and what is Garcia Benito, they're fighting over 16th place, and Trevino right now, in fact, fighting over 15th place. That is Javi Afonso Moreno. Let me get myself corrected there, and Moreno right now has got ahead of Trevino as a result of what is the pit stops. He's got back ahead, and they're fighting over the final spot in terms of the overall top 15, and Afonso Moreno right now keeping that Corvette at bay. And we did see before their pit stop, Trevino really struggling when he gets within 2 tenths of the back of that Porsche, and right now he's continuing to struggle there as they come on to what will be their next lap in due course. But making their way through what is turn number 15, and from them looking all the way out of that corner. We're going to stay with this battles. That's a big run wide there from Afonso Moreno, and this is going to be a prime opportunity for Trino. He's not going to get another chance like this as they make the way down. He's within half a tenth now as they come down towards turn 1. It's going to be Trevino on the inside, Moreno on the outside. Can he get the move done here? Can he get it stopped in time in the number 9 Corvette? And yes, he can. But will we see Afonso Moreno come back for the move into turn number 3? He thinks about it, but in the end thinks better of it, and it is Oriol Trevino who makes the move there after an uncharacteristic characteristic area from what is Javier Afonso Moreno as they made the way out of 15 onto that lap with 10 minutes to go. Can Oriol Trevino now run away and potentially catch up to the battle for 12th place between Powerful Man Bishop and Boisia? And my gut feeling says, has he got any tyre life left to do so? Perhaps not, as he makes way out the corner. He is opening up a little bit of a gap, but we will see over the next couple of laps whether he's still got any energy left in the tank. But from them now coming back to where's the fight at the bottom end of the top 5, where it's 3 drivers here with Christophe Dubois leading that battle for 3rd, and then you do have a Lopez and Gonzalez Garcia, and Gonzalez Garcia who we jump on board with, making his way out to turn number 14. And again, notice the difference in driving here from what is your number 14 driver, in the fact he's not willing to let the car run out wide. He doesn't want to follow in the wheel tracks of what is Lopez wherever possible. So I think he, much like drivers further down the order, are struggling with what is front tyre life, and Gonzalez Garcia is doing the same here. Does not like the dirty air. He loves it on the straight because it gives him the toe, but elsewhere he doesn't want to be in it for as long as he can help it. And as they come through 1 and in towards 2, well, a small mistake there from Dubois. Lopez almost follows him, and Gonzalez Garcia here right now just stays there right behind, looking for an opportunity, can't quite find it. And the Rincon Racing Porsche right in the middle of this sandwich right now. He is the filling, but I think he wants to try and take that 3rd place back, because he started to get a little bit adventurous on corner exits and get a bit close to the back of Dubois, who in turn right now I think he's looking more and more in his rear view mirrors. Making the way through turn number 5, a bit of a lock up there on where's the front left brake for Lopez, pushing hard, and that's a sign of when he's trying to use the remaining life and the tyre on the front brakes in order to just be a bit more aggressive into those apexes. You can get away with micro lockups, it doesn't cause too much damage. However, if you keep doing it over the course of a couple of laps, that's where you really degrade the tyre life and you start to overheat the tyre. So therefore it really is a game in these GT machines that you want to get as close as possible to what is that lockup threshold. You practically want to be on it in order to get the best possible braking performance. But the thing is, if you go slightly over it, that is where the problems come, and that's when you sometimes see drivers just go straight on, because in the end they've crept into what's the lockup threshold and they can't get the brakes to unlock in at the right time. But as Gonzalez Garcia gives the chase again, it's just very lazy on the run out of 13 to 14. That's not to belittle him or anything, but you can just tell right now he does not want to follow the lines of Lopez, even though ideally he wants to stay on that racing line. The car doesn't want to go with it, and therefore he's having to respect the wishes of his car as he makes his way out turn 15 and on towards that start finish straight, but roaring the way on out. Meanwhile, looking back to the Powerful Man Bishop battle at 4-12, and well, right now this is going to go down there as one of the big battles of season 2, no doubt about it, as these two head in towards turn number 14. Well, they stay as they were with Boisia right behind, and well, Boisia there within what is a whole second of them, but not really becoming a big player anymore. And I think the Ford GT driver might be now starting to think about saving some tyre life towards the end of the race in case he can get involved. You can see Powerful Man there taking a brief bit of slipstream off of Villela, but Villela slowing down, they're respecting the blue flags, and it actually catches Powerful Man off guard a little bit as Dan Bishop just simply goes, okay, I'm going to hold the race line, I don't know where you're going. And as they make the way in towards turn number 1, they stay as they were, but I think we've had a bit of a moment because John Shamblin's now up to 10th, and here's Sergio Lopez. Now, he's fallen down the order there. He was running 10th himself, but Shamblin's taken the place of that. Lopez has rejoined the racing right in front of Powerful Man Bishop and Boisia, so this is going to push them all together. Is this going to create some late drama here in the battle? And my gut feeling says yes, it is, and well, it's going to be a spectacle for us, no doubt about it. As they calm down, that's a lot of gravel going across the circuit there, all coming off of the tyres of Sergio Lopez, so he's had a huge off. Can we get a replay to explain what's happened? Yes, we can, and here it is. And this is what happened to Sergio Lopez, who was at a comfortable 10th place spot. That is none other than John Shamblin behind, but nowhere near to get involved. Takes a lot of apex curve there. The car bounces one way, then the other. Big sideways motion, and that explains what happened there. Oh my goodness! And well, in the end, John Shamblin taking a very inventive way of taking turn number 2, but having to do so because the road was completely blocked, and then Sergio Lopez getting himself back up to speed there. And well, it's the gravel that was thrown across the circuit by Shamblin's excursion, and in the end, Lopez and company are all picking up the gravel as a result of it. But coming back to your live racing pictures, well, now with what is this 4-way battle for the 11th place spot here, and they are all separated by half a second respectively, getting very close together. But as they come on through towards the end of another lap, let's give you a quick recap of the top 10, or in fact the top 15. So after what has been 24 laps of 23 laps of race on to lap 24, it's Alexander Nicholas who leads and starts on pole, leading now by 8.7 seconds ahead of Ryan van der Grip, the second place man who started second, and right now in that Corvette C8R seems very happy to be finishing second at this rate of knots. In third, it's the second of the Corvette, it's Christophe Dubois, and the Cube racing driver here doing a fantastic job to hold up the third place with pressure from Giovanni Lopez and Diego Gonzalez Garcia right behind, with Roberto Farina meanwhile now seemingly settling into 6th place ahead of Matthew Broom, who was the first of our top 10 drivers to pit, was Broom, but in the end it hasn't worked out In fact, it's enabled Farina to get ahead of him and hold the place. Meanwhile, in 8th place, we do have Michael Matthijs, who's had a very quiet race, having started 8th. He hasn't made or lost any places in the number 7. And then we do have what is Max Chambers in 9th, and we're in a bit of a lonely 9th here for the number 5 driver, ahead of Jordan Shamblin, who completes your top 10 there, having just picked up the place from Sergio Lopez. But we're going to stop the run through the order there for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, because right now, well, Giovanni Lopez has had a bit of an error. He's fallen away from the bar. The gap has opened up to 1.5 seconds, and well, it hasn't seen him go off track. But from what I'm hearing in my ear from the spotters out there, went a little bit deep into turn number 11, and Gonzalez Garcia right over the back from here, coming out to turn number 14. Well, if he's going to go for it this time, Gonzalez Garcia, I don't think he's going to get a better opportunity than this. He's within 3 tenths. They come out the final quarter, but here's the big test, of course. What top speed can he achieve here in the toe? Can he close the distance? 3 tenths they came across the line, and as you can see that gap is not coming down. It's coming down very gradually, but not at the rate he needs compared to what we've seen from some other drivers, and the sparks fly off the back of Lopez's car. Well, right now, Garcia has invested so much on what is the corner speeds in that Porsche, and that explains why he can't find a way past the number 4 as they make the way out to turn number 3 in towards 4. The fact that Giovanni Lopez has an answer in the corners, and he's got a much bigger answer to give on the straights, and this Porsche right now that we're riding on board with is absolutely flying in his acceleration zones, and by the time Gonzalez Garcia gets close enough to think about a move, it's too late. He's got to stay on the racing line, or he's got to commit to a very late lunge, and well, Lopez is not going to give him that whatsoever as they make the way in towards 6 and 7. But over the crest and down they go, and as they do, well, in terms of that run through, we talked about the top 10 with Sergio Lopez best to rest in 11th, who you see here after that late instant coming through turn number 1, and he leads a 4-way battle from 11th all the way through to 14th for Jonathan Powerman, Dan Bishop, and the Ford GT of Cedric Boyce here right at the back of the group, as you can see them on camera. And then we do have in the distance there, in 15th place right now, Oreo Trevino, and well, the Corvette C8R driver here enjoying a great race, having started all the way from 25th on the grid, and he's made the most places of everybody inside that top 15, and right now is trying to chase down some further spots. He has got the pace. He is closing on that battle for 11th, but he's only closing at about 3 to 4 tenths a lap, so I don't think he's going to be there unless they fight absolutely dramatically over the last couple of laps, but you never know what could happen. But speaking of things that could happen, well, we've just had a change of places here. It's going to be Alfredo Barbosa, who is rejoining ahead of Sean Beig, and well, I believe we've had an incident for Billy Shear. We can't quite see him at the moment, the Corvette driver, but I think he's lost multiple places, and that might explain what's all happened here, because Billy Shear has fallen a long way down the order, in fact, and Sean Beig's had a bit of a moment, so I think there's been 2 separate incidents, and we're getting the data come through at the wrong time, but I believe that Alfredo Barbosa gained the place of Sean Beig, who had a big mistake there at turns 3 and 4, and separately, Billy Shear involved in an incident of his own doing, and well, we're not going to be able to get a replay of that between now and the end of the race, but that explains why I'm a bit confused there. Shear down in 23rd, but Barbosa, meanwhile, moving up to what is 20th ahead of Sean Beig as they make their way in towards what is turns 10 and 11. We're coming out of the corner and up towards what will be turn number 13 in due course. Well, from them, we come back to our race leader, who, as he makes his way on through the winding corners, well, it's going to be this lap plus 1 more. He will get a 27th lap in here today. He's got plenty of time to do so, but right now, no pressure on as he opens up that gap over Ryan van der Grip to the best part of 10 seconds now. And here is your number 2 car. Well, it's the number 1 leading the number 2. Perhaps to be expected, given those door numbers represent their I ratings, and therefore, of course, the lower the number, or higher up the order, you should say, really, with regards to numbers 1 and 2. It works the opposite way, of course, in motorsport compared to perhaps other sports, but right now it is the situation whereby your highest I-rated drivers are 1 and 2, and in 3rd place as well as the number 3 of Christophe Debar, and in 4th place is Giovanni Lopez, before the number 14 of Gonzalez Garcia decides to disrupt that run, and well, as he makes his way on down here right now, the number 14 Porsche all over the back of Lopez, and well, they'll get one more lap to do dueling here as they make the way out of turn 14 in towards 15, and Gonzalez Garcia this time having a much more aggressive exit out of 14. He knows he's only got one more chance, and that is why Lopez immediately pulling over to the right-hand side of corner exit. He does not want Gonzalez Garcia any closer than this, but he's not going to be able to give him a breather, because Garcia is coming. He's coming closer and a little bit more. He's going to look to the inside of turn 1, but he can't quite find it. Tucks back in. Can he get a better run into 2 and 3? Well, the answer is no, he can't into 2. Goes out wider 1. The car washing out, costing momentum into turn number 3, and right now, is that going to be the only move offerable to Gonzalez Garcia? see it, or can he put some more pressure on Lopez right at the close? Well, it seems like they're going to stay as they were for now, as they make the way down towards what will be turn number 5, with 4/10 being the gap between the two of them here as they make their way into the braking zone, unless Garcia goes for a huge lunge, which surely he wouldn't dare to dream to do so for that. No, he doesn't, and well, he stays where he is, but that might be the end of his story here as they come up the rides into 6 and then to 7. We'll have to see as they make the way towards the end of this lap, but as they come through with the battle between Powerman, Bishop and Boyce still staying as it is. As though to understand it, they're not making any changes. So therefore, as we can see, an earnest flash of the lights there from Lopez. He wants the traffic out the way. He doesn't want anybody between himself and what could be this full place finish. Well, meanwhile, nobody has stood in the way of this man and put it on pole by the best part of 7/10 of a second. Was he makes about the final quarter, the checker flag waves, and Alexandre Nicolas will take victory here at the Portimão Circuit for week number 6 of season 2 in a phenomenal drive, and really a drive of his own class. And what a drive it was on the Porsche 911 RSR driver. Ryan van der Grip will take second place there in the Corvette C8R in an absolutely brilliant drive for him. He kept Nicolas honest throughout the entirety of the first stint, and then it will be Christophe Dubois who is going to complete the podium to make it a double podium for the Corvette as he comes that timeline there, and the Cube Racing driver will be absolutely ecstatic with that one, with Giovanni Lopez holding on to 4th ahead of Diego Gonzalez Garcia. It will then be 4 seconds to Roberto Farina, who just holds off Matthew Broom to the line, and then Michael Matthias in a very lonely 8th place. We started where he finished, and what a day today for the number 7 driver. Much better run compared to Portimão what was a season ago. Max Chambers will take 9th place there ahead of Jordan Shamblin, and well, Shamblin still to get to line as Chambers comes on through them, probably wondering where was all the action today. Well, he definitely didn't have too much around him. Here comes Shamblin to line in 10th place. He's ecstatic. You can see him weave from side to side with that recovery drive given how it all started. Sergio Lopez will be best the rest of the length ahead of Jonathan Powerman. Dan Bishop in 13th place couldn't find a way through. Cedric Boyce with a difficult 14th place to stomach today ahead of Oreo Trevino, who was 15th with the most places gained. And then we will see in 16th Javier Alfonso Marino as he comes across that line there, and well, we've still got some more going on further behind as he comes to the end of his race. In 17th it is going to be Adrian Garcia Benito as he heads across that timeline, and well, in what was a bit of a difficult race for him today, still be happy to have seen the checkered flag, as will Marcus Seufer as he comes on through into 18th. After that, what was that incident before we even went green flag racing? Now it'll be Henry Viramaki, who in the BMW M8 today, 19th was the best he could get, but for the number 24 driver, I don't think he's going to complain at that given the struggles of the BMW here in Portugal. Alfredo Barbosa takes 20th, just fending off Sean Big to the line, and well, from them we will see what will be the end of your lead lap finishes, I believe, because Todd Allier was a lap down, as was Billy Shee and Tuna Kusuk. But we do have one instance to talk about just before we bring things to a close here, and here's a quick replay, and this I believe was between Alfredo Barbosa and Sean Big, and we're watching it with the camera focused on Big as he looked for a move here in towards turn number 13, and the two drivers coming together, and Big trying to go up the inside there, but from too far back, but I think deciding to get rolling, and well, as he made his way back up to speed, I believe he might have given the place back to Barbosa, because you can see here just limping along in towards turn number 14, and well, Barbosa in the end taking his time to come on around, but I think Big there just trying to get out the way and trying to say to Barbosa, no, I want you to come on through, and Barbosa taking the place there. So it all went wrong for Sean Big, trying to go for a bit of an adventurous move, but to be fair, being the gentleman, giving the place back to Barbosa, and that's the reason they finished 20th and 21st respectively when they did see that checkered flag. But coming back to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, well, we can see a little bit of what is the lockup and the aftermath of that contact between Barbosa and Big, but it does mean that right now the race has come to a close, and well, let's walk you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. Well, in the end, it was none other than Alexandre Nicolas who absolutely flew away for victory today in the number 1 from Luxembourg, and the Porsche 911 RSR driver, untouchable it would seem, over the whole race distance. However, Ryan van der Grip, that 10-second gap between the top two, he'll feel as though that doesn't truly represent just how honest he kept Nicolas on the opening stint, but in the second stint, it did seem as though the Porsche driver just had the edge. But still, from one Corvette on the podium, we then came to a second Corvette in the form of Christophe Dubois, with the Frenchman there making his way into third place on strategy, and what a brilliant piece of overcut strategy it was from the number 3 to keep Rincon Racing's Giovanni Lopez behind, and the Spaniard in the end having to settle for 4th. But when he reflects on it, he may be frustrated at missing out on the podium, but he won't be frustrated at the efforts he put in to keep Diego Gonzalez Garcia behind, who finished 5th place there in what was a closely contested battle. From the 14, it was to the number 10 of Roberto Farino, who took 6th place. Another great result there for the Spaniard, ahead of Matthew Broom, who lost out a little bit on strategy, but still top 10 finish there. And, well, the number 8 driver won't be upset at that. Michael Matthias, the American driver, and indeed the community representative for the GTE Sprint Series, taking 8th place, where he started in a bit of a less adventurous race, but still, I think all things considered, he'll be happy with that one. Ahead of Max Chambers, who took 9th place in the end for the United Kingdom, ahead of the American John Shamblin, who in the end, he might have found himself end up a long way down the order in the opening stages of the race, particularly after lap 1 contacts at turns 3 and 4, but to fight his way back to P10, well, I think that will feel as though that's a win in itself. Sergio Lopez, best rest in 11th, ahead of Jonathan Palfreman, and the Canadian driver there fend off the charges of both Dan Bishop and Cedric Boisier, with the Cube Racing driver Indian having to settle for 14th in the Soul Ford GT here today. Oreo Trevino finished 15th, and then it was Javier Moreno finishing 16th ahead of Adrian Benito, with Marcus Seufer, Henry Viramaki, and Alfredo Barbosa completing a top 20. From the Argentine, we then did see in what was at 21st place, Sean Begg, ahead of Todd Alia, and well, Todd Alia being the first of a number of drivers who finished a lap down, as did Billy Shee ahead of Chino Kusuk, and then we also did have Andre Villela wrapping up those who finished a lap down in 25th place. From the sole Ferrari driver, it then was one of your BMW drivers of Lucas Ludger, who finished 2 laps down, 3 laps down to Robin Kaiser, and we also had 4 laps down there to Ian McKay, who was able to get the car back out there to finish the race today. We did have one retirement, sadly, and that was Glenn Harrison, and in the end retiring with what was the best part of 23 laps to go. So 29 starters, 28 finishes, ladies and gentlemen, and what was 21 of them on the lead lap. Well, what a race, no doubt about it. An absolutely packed race here for a strength of field of 2,647. Great to see at Portimão. Indeed, 29 drivers on the grid giving it their all, and that's what we love to see week in, week out. But with the circuit falling silent, well, very shortly we're going to need to fall silent because, of course, it is now time for us to wrap up. And, well, where do we go next week, I hear you ask? Well, it is going to be a trip to Australia, and with it, none other than the Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit will play host for what will be week number 7 as we roar away into the second half of the 2025 Season 2 GTE Sprint Series schedule here on the official iRacing calendar. And, well, where better to go racing than what is infamously known as the Mountain, or Bathurst, in reference to local town. And we will see you there on Friday, the 2nd of May, 2025, to continue the top split story of the GTE Sprint Series. And will we see a runaway winner? Who will pronounce themselves King of the Mountain? And who will we see languish at the bottom of it all? Well, you have to tune in a week's time to find out. But until then, we have been the official iRacing GTE Sprint Series. I've been your host and commentator for this top split broadcast. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic weekend ahead. And, well, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.